Body shot. Ooh, that hurt, didn't it?
When the adrenaline starts pumping and you know what you can do with this right hand, it's hard to not do that.
Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back to another episode of the Bloody Water Podcast. I think it's fair to say that this weekend could have been summed up by the state of mentality. It's all about heart. How bad do you want it? It's not necessarily about how technically proficient you are in the cage. Sometimes it's literally about how deep you're willing to dig to go and pull out the win. Use mental warfare, use a bunch of different tactics. And if there's one thing that I need to note, it's that Chito Vera, Marlon Vera, the man who's been in the UFC for quite some time, the first Ecuadorian fighter in UFC history, this is a man who put his mentality and his heart on full display. There is no way that you cannot be a fan of Chito Vera, especially after this 5-round mauling of Rob Font. Yes, did he get outstruck? Of course. Did he drop Font 3 times? Absolutely. Did he walk out looking like he was almost unscathed, like he didn't get into a fist fight? I think so. But without any further ado, my name is Derick G, folks. I am going to be your host for the next 90 minutes or so, and let me bring in my co-host, the New Mexico native, the Santa Fe bomber himself, the man who shares that David Goggins-esque mentality with my man Chito Vera. AJ, brother, how you living?
Bro, I'm living good, Derick, man. It was a fun night of fights, man, from the bottom, literally from the prelims all the way up. We had a bunch of finishes, some happy moments, some sad moments. It was a good night of fights, man. Everything I wanted, brother. How you living?
I'm living good, man. I will say that after watching that Chito Vera fight, I don't know if you agree with me here. I was pumped up, brother. I was hyped up. I was like, I'm not working hard enough. I had to go hit the gym after the fight just because, just on principle. That's how motivating of a fighter that Chito Vera is. Whether you watch his interviews with Joe Rogan or you're just watching the man train over there with Jason Parillo, it does not matter. And by the way, Jason Parillo, Mackenzie Dern, and Chito Vera over there making moves, interesting to see. But the point is, brother, I am hyped up, man. I'm not gonna lie. I'm feeling a little bad because if we do our TLDR, brother, you won the week, my man. I was close. I was so close, but no cigar. So folks, let's talk about it. TLDR. I went 4-2 on the week. AJ wins the week at 5-1. He is currently in the lead on the scoreboard overall at 54-27. I'm in second place at 52-29. And I guess second place is a nice way of saying it because there's only two of us. I'm in last place. He's in first place. It is what it is. My wrong picks, Rob Font and Jared Gordon. Those were my two kind of throw-up picks right there. For AJ, the only one you got wrong, brother, was Andre Fili. And that's one where I tried to let the people know. We talked about the prop too, brother. I said, Joanderson Brito plus 1,000 TKO. You said I might have to throw some on that just because. And what happened? TKO round 1, easy money. So folks, that's where we stand right now. Like I said, AJ is in the lead. I will let my man savor it for now. Brother, give me some thoughts on the fights.
Yeah, man. I mean, besides that Brito Fili fight, and really that fight, that's what happens in a scrap. It can happen at anything, even at a plus 1,000 comeback for the TKO. Guess what we saw, man? Yeah. Sometimes your chin touches your shoulder, you go down. But other than that, man, great night of fights. I was pretty not surprised, but a happy kind of I guess surprise is a good way to put it, on how all the fight nights went, because there were some close ones that could have been won one way or the other, and I'm sure we'll talk about them. But either way, overall fight night, a lot of fun, man.
Absolutely, brother. Now let's talk over and unders. Now I will have to say I had a great night on the over unders, brother. 6-0 on the over and under. So folks, cash in with me next time. AJ though, brother, 4-2, right? Still looking hot, still looking sharp. I will say for the upsets on the main card, there were only two. Chito Vera was one of them, and then Joanderson Brito was the other. Other than that, I do feel like the main cards as of late have been a little chalky. When you try to throw up that kind of just like, let's see what happens pick, oftentimes it's not really coming to fruition, brother. I will say, folks, banger of a fight, Jared Gordon versus Grant Dawson. Grant Dawson 6-0-1 in the UFC. Now the man is on a mission now that he's at AT&T or ATT, American Top Team. The man is looking to get closer to that championship title, I will say. So, folks, with that being said, lots of fun fights we're going to be talking about, but before we do any of that good stuff, I need to let you know that you should drop a like, subscribe. We're currently over 370 subscribers, so from week to week, show to show, we keep on growing, keep on moving up. We appreciate you. Keep hitting that subscribe button, keep sharing it with your friends, all the good stuff. BloodyWaterPodcast.com is the home, the hub, where you can find all the information you need and that is pertaining to the Bloody Water Podcast, but also hit us up on social media, on Instagram at Bloody Water Podcast and on Twitter at Bloody Water Pod. Now, without any further ado, AJ, brother, I think it's time we just jump straight into the main card recap. Yep.
All right,
brother, let's do it.
Have you seen that replay, buddy? Your head was bouncing around like a pinball machine.
Time for some main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ. Okay, brother. So it's not often that I can sit here and I can say that the fighter with the clean face got hit with significant strikes that total up to 271 over the course of 5 rounds. And the man who didn't get touched as much is looking like he just got into a car crash, looking like he has a movie set makeup on him, like a makeup artist in a horror film, like, touched him up a little bit. Rob Font's face got annihilated with knees, elbows, heels, all the things that outside of a boxing match pertain in a mixed martial arts contest, right? So while it did go to show that Rob Font was the superior boxer in this matchup, Chito Vera proved to be the superior mixed martial artist. Brother, in terms of the damage on Rob Font's face, when's the last time you've seen any fighter with the look, the mumps, the lumps, the bumps, everything on their face like Chito Vera did to Rob Font? When's the last time you've seen something like that?
Man, it comes to memory. I maybe just because I was rewatching it the other day, that JJ fight, but that wasn't anywhere near the bloodiness. It was just the size of the swelling that was taking place. The crazier thing, Derick, when's the last time you've seen somebody with this kind of mark on their face and they were the one hitting the dude more? That's kind of what's more surprising to me, man. It's insane how much damage Chito was able to get done versus how much output Font had with little power. Because look at Chito, he was a little scratched up. He had a little bit on him. But nothing compared to exactly, nothing comparatively at all, brother.
Well, this actually reminds me of the Anderson Silva, versus Chael Sonnen fight. So Chael Sonnen hit Anderson Silva a million times, and Anderson didn't have a scratch on him. This is kind of reminiscent to that. So it goes to kind of like the question, I guess I should say. Rob Font, he's been able to knock people out. I think he has like 4 knockouts on his record. So he has the power to be able to put people out. But as of late, when you get to that upper echelon of the bantamweight division, it doesn't really seem like it's taking the same effect. It really seems like it's volume over power, and Chito's strategy was power over volume, especially with the kicks. We had said it was the Rob Font jab versus the teep kicks, the long ranginess of Chito Vera, the knees, the elbows. We said all of this going into it. And I felt like everything that we said in the preview show was correct. And even you said, I think that Rob Font's the slicker boxer, fights more technically off the back foot, but I still think Chito's going to win. That's what you said, and you hit it right on the button, brother. I don't know how listen, I feel like intangibly, statistically, yes, Rob Font won. Fight-wise, no, you lose all day long. So let's talk about it a little bit, brother. Chito Vera, he just notched the biggest win of his career by far. This is not even close. And it did seem a little bit like Rob Font was kind of discounting Chito Vera, saying, well, I'm fighting backwards. I'm more technical than him. This shouldn't be a tough fight. But one thing, like I said in the intro, brother, that you cannot count out from Marlon Vera is the heart, the tenacity, the will, the will to want it. And when he was tearing up in his post-fight interview talking about this is all the hard work that I put in, this is coming to fruition, it almost made me want to tear up, bro. Made me want to be like, I need to go and run 13 miles right now. Like, I need to go get after it because if I put in the hard work, the glory will come. What do you make of this scenario?
100%, Derick. You put in the work. I forget who said it, but he said the harder I work, the luckier I get. And this is one of those instances. The harder you work, the holes present themselves. We were talking about the kicks of Vera being the determining factor, the way to go. Just like Font's jab. Little did we know, homeboy's going to be spinning and throwing those kicks too, man. Hitting you with wheel kicks, heel kicks, everything, and then leading in with those lead elbows, man. I'm a big fan of those Marlon Vera, those elbows up the middle, man. Those look good. Crazy. Like the fact of what was going on. This is the perfect example of the times we see. Normally we see the death by 1,000 cuts motto kind of be going on, but this is the exact opposite, man. Vera said, fuck those cuts. I'm letting in with, slashes, big gashes coming in, doing dirty things, and still got the better of the fight, man. Very impressive mentality. And for a person to think, I'm going to take the first 3 minutes of this round off and then come back and have that mentality to be able to have the confidence in yourself, man. Very impressive for Marlon Vera going forward. This dude's a dog, bro.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And let's talk about a little intangibles regarding the fight, right? So Rob Font, because he missed weight, first weight miss in his career, he weighed in at like 138 pounds going into this fight. Chito still accepted it clearly. So that means that he wasn't eligible for any bonus. This was the fight of the night by far, 5-round banger, and Marlon Vera double bonuses, gets 100K that he gets to just bank that one right there into his savings account. There's a couple other things that were important. So he dropped Rob Font 3 times. However, he was outstruck 271 to 159 in significant strikes. But the big key right here is that Marlon Vera, believe it or not, like right before our eyes, he has now entered the 5th most UFC wins in bantamweight history. So just like that, AJ, just like that. This dude, Chito Vera, who puts together a streak and then loses, puts together a streak, loses, has a good time, and then drops it against the higher opposition, finally puts it together, gets into the top 5 of the bantamweight division, and is number 5 in most wins in bantamweight history. More wins than Rob Font, but he's been in the company a lot longer as well. Before I ask you what you make of that, I did want to just put out this note that I saw from Damon Martin, who is now over there at MMA, mixedmartialarts.com or something like that. This was like a former, I don't remember where he's at. I thought it was at MMA Junkie or something, but you know Damon Martin. He said, Rob Font looks like he's been headbutting a cinder block for the last 25 minutes. That was the metaphor, you know, the comparison, I guess you could say. And when I pull it up again, does that look like a man who's been headbutting a cinder block for 25 minutes right there?
Something like it, Derick. The only thing is that cinder block punches back because, yeah, there's a lot of damage on Ron Font's face, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you make of it, brother? I mean, Chito Vera has all these accolades now. He's finally catching up. I think Jason Perillo had said that your mentality is finally catching up to your body. You know what I mean? Like your body was primed, ready to go, but now you're mentally there as well. Do you agree with that assessment?
100%, man. And I think they really showed in the post-fight breakdown with how emotionally invested Chito Vera is, man. He was working a lot harder than every other camp he's ever worked in, and it showed in the performance, in the speech afterwards. You know, it showed in everything he did, man. And I think it is finally the era of Chito Vera to come in, man, because he's looking like a world beater now, especially mindset ready as well.
I agree. So let me ask you this, because this is the big takeaway that I have from this fight. For Chito Vera, now that he is coming into his own and all that good stuff that we just talked about, is he this new, how would you say, archetype of fighter, right? This new archetype that we haven't seen in quite some time that we would call the marathon fighter, right? The dude who is built for 5 rounds. If this was a 3-round fight, this would have been a lot closer than what it was. But given that it was 5 rounds, he really shined in rounds 4 and 5. So going up against the top guns, the Piotr Jans, the Jose Aldos again, right? The Corey Sandhagens, in a 5-round fight, this marathon style of Marlon Vera, the low volume, high power style of Marlon Vera, who could throw full-on power rounds 1 through 5. Is this a new real-deal threat with this new archetype in the bantamweight division?
I like the way you're phrasing that, Derick, the marathon runner, you know, the deep water runner. In triathlons, they always say it's not about, I guess in races in general, they always say it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. And I think that's the perfect metaphor for the way Marlon Vera fights, man. He doesn't care how rough the start was, whatever heels he has to battle, whatever mental challenges he has to get through. It's all about how you finish. And if you finish strong, you look good. That's what gets the points for the judges, man. And it's really if Font wants to keep that up against these people, you know, these upper echelons, the Jans, the Aldos, the Sandhagens, the Aljos, all these top, you know, upper echelon fighters, I think that's going to be the harder of the roads to toll. But at the same point, once you break somebody mentally, you know, like for instance in the Font fight where he's giving him everything he has, he's cracking him left, right, uppercuts, you know, everything, literally throwing everything but the kitchen sink at him. And the dude is still standing there talking shit, smiling back at you, and then throwing more power than you can and you can muster up. It's a debilitating mental state for somebody to be in that isn't mentally strong. So I can see that working. But at the same point, you leave somebody like Corey Sandhagen the first 3 minutes of the match, he can probably snatch something up pretty quick if you're being a little too lackadaisical. So risk reward, which one do you see it more as, Derick, the risk or the reward?
It's risky. It's very risky. I mean, Jason Perillo even said it. He was all like, you can't let a dude like Rob Font get up on you like this, man. You have to be busy. You're a slow starter. Let's get it together, right? So I think it will be dangerous against some of these more elite oppositions in the top 5 of the bantamweight division because this is the most talented division in on the UFC's current roster. But at the same time, man, it's working for him, brother, because he won the other aspects of the fight. He won the stare down, the classic Mike Tyson stare down. He won the I'm standing up, I'm ready to go, I'm in the center of the cage. By the time you're standing up, getting off the stool, I'm ready to go. Let's fight right now. You know, he won all of those things that kind of demoralize and, like you said, debilitate your opponent mentally. You just broke his opponent mentally completely. I think that Rob Font mentally, he had some issues this night, you know what I mean? But Marlon Vera will do that to you. He'll do that to anybody, man. So I will say, huge win by Marlon Vera, by far the biggest win of his career. Shout out to him. Power, heart, resilience. You cannot not be a fan of Chito Vera after this fight. We've been big fans of him. I feel bad that I picked against him, but I'll tell you what, now this is one of those moments where everything lined up. He is ready to go for the big show, brother. Shout out to Chito Vera. Now, AJ, man, let's move on to a little bit of controversy. Now, Andrei Arlovski, the old dog, the pit bull, man, that is yet to get neutered, you know what I mean? The pit bull that's out here still biting, lockjawing down on his opposition. He fought Jake Collier. And Jake Collier, I will say, this was the most impressive fight that he lost that I think that he won in his entire career. And what I mean more by that is that Jake Collier just had the best performance of his career to date. You fought an old chiseled vet that has seen it all, and you kind of put it on him. So AJ, when one judge scores this fight 30-27 in favor of Jake Collier, then Andrei Arlovski wins a split decision, clearly something's not right. Clearly there's been a little bit of a discrepancy here. What wins the day, AJ? Timing, good jabs, popping it, you know what I mean? Doing all that good old Arlovski-esque nature, or Jake Collier landing the big bombs, the left hook, time after time after time, pushing forward, putting a pace on his opponent. What wins more than that, you know what I mean? Because in the eyes of the judges, clearly Arlovski got it. In the eyes of the fans, Collier won it. What do you think?
Man, it's overall, I'd say the Collier approach. You know, the big power, the big shots, controlling the big moments, winning the times in the fight where everybody goes, oh, you know, those ones. When you have those moments, I feel like those are the ones that win the fight. But according to the judges, it's a per fight basis, which is absolutely insane. And you can see it right there, folks, on the media scores. It's 100% Collier. And I also kind of had it that same way. I had to watch this fight back, folks. So I knew Andrei Arlovski won. So I was expecting to go into that, you know, with like, oh, okay, he's going to be piecing him up. He's going to stay in that range. Jab, jab, jab all day, head movement, get out of the way, fight the same kind of Arlovski fight. And then you go in there and you realize it's Collier being the pit bull. It's kind of crazy. It was mind-blowing, the facts, because I was like, split decision. Like, all right, interesting. Let's see how this one plays out. And I don't know, man. I mean, there's definitely a case for an argument that Jake Collier won this fight. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's more than an argument, brother. This is one of those where I picked Arlovski, but I didn't feel good knowing that I got the win going into the week, if that makes sense, right? So I win, so I'm happy because I'm like, my accuracy record is being maintained, right? But at the same time, it's like, oh, Jake Collier, like, come on, brother. You put on the best showing of up to date, I guess I should say, and then you only get half of your check. That's not a good feeling for anybody, especially because we've been doing this breakdown for so long. It's not worth the win to have a fighter get ripped off half of his check. I mean, Jake Collier, this man is going to be a real problem in the heavyweight division because the speed kills, man. It's like that middleweight muscle memory has translated truly into his heavyweight days. Would you agree with me right there? Like, obviously he's done it against lesser opposition, but to do it against Arlovski is pretty impressive.
Very impressive, man. And you're right. The speed kills, especially when you're not fighting a vet like Arlovski that's seen that kind of speed. Then you're going to be fighting people who don't know what's happening. You don't know what you're getting hit with. And I think Collier, this is going to be one of those losing lessons from Collier that takes him really far in his career. Because for me, he didn't lose any respect. You know, he might have lost the fight, but he gained some respect in my book, and he gained a couple fans where they see this dude's a dog. He's willing to walk forward and get a little bloodied up, because at the end of that third, he was a little. I guess it's arguable who was a little bit more bloodied, but they were both pretty bloodied. Arlovski with the hell of a nose break, but Collier, man, looked good regardless.
Well, what did you make of all the headbutts, man? Or clash of heads, I guess I should say, because that was time after time. It was like they're both dipping on the same, like they're throwing, dipping, head. Clash of heads, clash of heads, clash of heads. I think there was like probably at least 5 clash of heads throughout the fight. However, because it was so incidental, even the referee, Mark Smith, he was all like, brother, I can't take any points from anybody. Y'all are both dipping your head. Stop bitching and moaning. Stop dipping your head. How about that? So in a situation like this, you know headbutts and clash of heads do damage your opponent. You know what I mean? Like, whether it's intentional or not, you are getting damaged by it a little bit. So I just wonder how much that played a factor. What do you think about that?
I mean, it definitely played a factor, 100%. And I mean, if I'm in there and you keep headbutting me and the ref's not going to do anything about it, I'm going to do what Arlovski did and every single time go, you know? Like, you literally saw him, like, all right, first time, he gives him, like, the headbutt, like, hey, he tells ref, okay. Yeah. Second one, eats it again, and then third one, he goes, all right. Starts putting that head down. That's really all you can do, man. I mean, because you got to defend yourself in there. You don't want to be the one getting cracked, like we saw Kevin Holland head clash, right to the chin. Yeah, that's what you don't want, man. So you got to, protect yourself a little bit. It was interesting though, because I feel like there should be a better way to stop that from happening. But like you said, both guys dipping their heads. What are you gonna do?
I mean, it's the equivalent of both dudes keep eye poking each other because their fingers are outstretched. It's kind of the equivalent right there. So it was interesting to see. But at the end of the day, I did want to make note that it looks like Jake Collier outstruck Arlovski in rounds 1 and and it was even in rounds 3, and he lost rounds 2. So it's weird because it felt like watching it that Collier was the busier fighter, landing the bigger, harder shots. I think that's what it was. Arlovski was landing well-timed shots, but Collier was landing big shots, the big moment shots. So with that being said, one more time, just to recap, folks, the lone judge that gave the 30-27, which I think was maybe not the correct score, but a better score. I think it should have been 29-28 Collier. It was Michael Bell. Doug Crosby and Sal D'Amato gave the fight to Arlovski. So take that information and do what you will with it. But I will say that was a big win by Arlovski, but no loss in stock for Collier. So we'll just put it like that. All right, AJ. Now this one, we don't got much to say, but I do need to say Joanderson Brito. Folks, put some respect on my man's name. He came in, he didn't even need to take a shot, brother. All he needed is a big right hand to make Andre Fili's chin touch his shoulder, and that was basically the end of the night. Now, AJ, honestly, we didn't really see a fight. We didn't see a contest. And I had actually proposed to you this question in the pre-show, and I said, 10 times these dudes fight. Probably like 8 times Fili wins and like 2 times Brito wins. And I think this was one of those moments because the veteranship on Andre Fili, who I think prior had only been knocked out twice in his career, this is a dude who can fight with the best of them, hang with the best of them, and put you in deep spots, put you in deep water, take your best shot and keep it pushing. Couldn't do it this time. And when he got off the canvas after he regained his consciousness, he kind of looked at his corners and was like, happened. That's an OG. That's a veteran. So I like that he took his loss on the chin. But what can we say about Joanderson Brito? How dangerous is this man going to be forward in this division?
Man, I think fighting style, he's very dangerous. You know, not not middle of the pack, a little bit above middle of the pack. Very dangerous fighter. But the aggression he comes with, man, the persistence, the power, the pressure that he always is pushing forward. That's what makes Brito dangerous because he's down for the dogfight. We've said it before on this podcast that Brito is an absolute dog. This dude's down to step forward and get in the wars. You know, the wars this wasn't really a war. But if Fili would not have gotten cracked, it was about to be. It was headed that direction where we're going to see 2 dudes just swinging and banging in a phone booth. And that's Brito's style, man. And that's what makes him dangerous is he's not scared of that. And I think that mentality of the fact that he's not scared to walk in there, walk through the fire. You know the old saying, you got to walk through, you got to get a little wet to walk through the rain, whatever the saying is. I just butchered it. But either way, that is what Brito is, man. And I think that's his most dangerous aspect. Nonetheless, the power. Dude has absolute power. But the fact that he's willing to use that power and walk through the heat, that's what makes him dangerous to me. What about for you, Derek?
Well, I think the apt saying is that you can't walk through the rain and not get wet, right? And Brito's down to get wet, to walk through that rain. Yeah, brother, I think this is a dangerous man. I think this is a very dangerous man, and if you could survive that first round blitz, you might be able to have some success against him. But if you cannot get past that first round, it's going to be a short night, just like it was against Andre Fili. Let's not forget that we placed a prop bet here on the pre-show at Joanderson Brito with a TKO at plus 1,000. So, folks, I hope you cashed in on that. I truly do because we're giving you these prop bets. We're giving you the game before the fight's taking place, right? And we didn't even mention it, but on the Arlovski pick on the last one, he won on points, plus 125 for points on Arlovski. So we hit on that one. We hit on the Brito fight. We hit on a couple more on the main card. But the point is right here, it was a short night for Joanderson Brito. I'm excited to see who he gets matched up with next. One of the things I did note on the pre-show is I said, it's kind of crazy they're matching him up with Fili, such a tough veteran, but now that he got past the tough veteran, it's only going to get tougher from here. But that also means, look at the discrepancy, AJ, on the board right here. Number 95 ranked was Brito. Number 20 was Fili. That's going to be a big jump, brother. You might not get number 20. You might not be fighting number 20, number 15, number 17, number 18, but you might get number 25, number 30. And that just means 2 fights into the UFC, which you're 1-1, you're already top 30, which is pretty damn crazy, if I do say so myself. Folks, I did forget to mention, but I did want to make note of this. Andrei Arlovski actually had a record-shattering performance. So with this split decision win against Jake Collier, he actually he ties the UFC's all-time win record after defeating Jake Collier via split decision, and he's tied with Jim Miller and Donald Cerrone with the most wins in company history at 23. So we had kind of placed a little bet, or like just kind of talked about it a couple months back, saying like, Jim Miller, Andrei Arlovski, Cowboy Cerrone, like who's going to finish with the most? And at this point, I think it's time to revisit that a little bit, AJ. At the rate that they're going right now, it seems like Jim Miller and Andrei Arlovski have the best bet of actually becoming or ending their career being number 1 in UFC all-time wins. Who has a better shot? Like if your odds, who's plus money, who's minus money? Jim Miller or Andrei Arlovski?
I think Arlovski's the favorite.
Okay.
And it sounds crazy because the power that the heavyweights have,
Yeah.
but he just has something where I feel like Jim Miller's in a harder division, so it's going to be harder to get those wins. Arlovski, he's playing that gatekeeper position, so he's not going to be fighting the top tier. I know he wants to go for a title, again, but depends on how it goes. He's still going to be fighting the guys up and coming.
Yeah,
What do you think? Who would you place your money on?
Well, I think that I would place the favorite as Andrei Arlovski as well, but Jim Miller did say he wants to continue to fight until UFC 300. So it's like, well, that's a long time, brother. You know what I mean? Andrei Arlovski could be fighting until he's fucking 48 years old, 50 years old. Like, he could be on some Bernard Hopkins type-esque. But this is the other part, too. What are the odds that Cowboy Cerrone just somehow stays under the radar and he ends up finishing with the most? Because Cowboy Cerrone, he has a fight coming up next week, right? He's fighting Joe Lauzon. So it's going to be interesting to see, can he string a couple more years of fights together? But if he keeps getting finished the way that he kind of has throughout his last 10 fights or so, it might not be the case. Do you think he can kind of creep in there?
Oh man, I think the biggest shot Cowboy has for creeping in there is the fact that he's a company man and he can sneak by that radar and he can keep going. Because I think the UFC knows that they got money with Cowboy and people are going to pay to see him, so they can keep him around for that extra 4, 5, 6 years, a little bit past what he should be.
Bro, when you have a banging card like UFC 274 and Cowboy versus Lauzon is on the main card, the part you pay for, that goes to show that he puts asses in seats. So shout out to Cowboy Cerrone. But yeah, I think Arlovski is probably going to be the favorite to finish his career with the most wins in UFC history, which is amazing to do at heavyweight. Not at bantamweight, not at lightweight, at heavyweight, which is ridiculous. All right, AJ, let's move on. What a performance, brother. Grant Dawson, you got this one right. Jared Gordon, this was a tough fight. This was a very tough fight. So I think it was fair that I picked Jared Gordon in this one. But Grant Dawson did something that nobody has been able to do to Jared Gordon in his career, which is submit the man. He submitted him in the third round of their fight. It was a war of attrition, but Grant Dawson did something that he normally has not been able to do. And I don't know if we can attribute this to him joining American Top Team and fighting with Thiago Moises and Thiago Alves on a daily, right? Or if this is just Grant Dawson, just the true breed of him. This man is just 3 rounds of nonstop relentlessness. If he can grab your leg, it's game over. He only needs one leg. Grab it, he's getting you down, he's putting you on your butt, he's taking your back, and he's going to try to choke you out or ground and pound you to oblivion. Those are what we're doing here with Grant Dawson. He did it for 3 rounds, brother. And the problem with his last fight is that he was only able to do it for 2 rounds until Ricky Glenn was able to take that 3rd round and be in control. Cardio was not a factor in this fight. Not an issue, I guess I should say. How dangerous is Grant Dawson after this performance? Because this is the test right here that solidified in my mind. Oh, yeah. There's no doubt in Grant Dawson. He said, put respect on my name. I'm putting all the respect on Grant Dawson's name. You don't do what you did to Jared Gordon without now immediately entering top 15, top 20 contention. So what do you think?
Very much so, Derick. Dude, Dawson is crazy good, man. And the hands were looking good too, man. This dude, he's getting sharper and sharper with each day, and it's really showing, man. The fact that he has the gas tank to keep going, 1 through 3, all 15, never taking a second off. Very scary, but what's even scarier is he's so good on the ground. Even if he slips, like we saw, even if he slips in the fight, he can get to your leg, and it's basically over after that, man. This dude needs a split second, a moment of an open door, and he's taking that advantage and rolling with it, man. And Dawson, very much, for me, he's probably the most slept on 155er we have in the division. There's a couple other dark horses out there, but Grant Dawson is one of them. And with his fighting style of full pressure, full power going forward, he's going to be a handful to deal with. The only problem that I see, though, is there's a lot of the same type of fighters that are ahead of him, that have been through those deep waters, that have been through those grinder matches. And it's going to be time to see if Grant Dawson is ready to face those killers. But either way, it makes for a very fun and close fight each time. So you never know who's going to win in the Dawson fights. Makes it more exciting. What do you think? Is he going to fare well against those other grinders in the division coming up?
Well, it's interesting, and I'm going to answer your question with a question right here, because Grant Dawson is this grinder in the lightweight division, and it is fair to say. So there's these 2 comparisons we often make in the UFC, right? They say it used to be lightweight was the best division in the roster. Now we're saying bantamweight is probably the most talented. However, lightweight is the hardest. And I wanted to ask you if we can maybe extrapolate on that a little bit, because if the lightweight division is the toughest division to win in, not the most talented, but the toughest, Does that mean that Grant Dawson and this style that he's going to have to take, because he said it, he's like, hey, folks, just take notes. This game plan I did right here, this is what I'm doing against everybody. So, like, take notes, please, because this is what I'm going to do to you. If he can make his way up to the top 15, top 10, top 5 with this style in the hardest division in UFC, does that necessarily mean that the lightweight division is the most talented if it's the hardest?
No, I think it's hardest in the fact that their lightweight is the perfect example of where power and skill and speed meet. Like you're that prime area where all of those things can blend really well. The problem that the 145ers, the 135ers, the bantamweights that have is they just don't have the same kind of power that the 155ers can. Yeah. Now, that being said, the 155ers don't have the speed, don't have the technique, and the smaller you get, and this goes all the way literally from your white belt in kickboxing, karate, and all this stuff, all the way up to the pros. The smaller the guys, the more technical, the faster, the better they are. But the bigger, the more power. Same thing. 155 has that kind of middle ground, skill, power, offset, kind of that whole package. They really are the whole package of the UFC. And I think that's why it's a harder division, because all of them are powerful, skilled, strong, fast going forward. Just not as there's some of them that are more of a grinder style, like Grant Dawson, where going to be continuously grinding forward, motion. Where in the bantamweight, we have more of the flashy strikers that are going on, the more technical, which I think takes a little bit more technical skill. See what I'm saying? Or you feel me? Or you got something?
That makes sense. That makes sense, because I was trying to see. I was like, "What's the difference?" I was like, "I feel like we're using the same words for these things, but but that does make sense." You have the bigger, stronger dudes at lightweight. It is a tough division, especially when you look at this top 15. It's stacked with killers. Grant Dawson, he's fit of that archetype of the Gregor Gillespies, of the Matus Gamrots, Armin Sarukian. Those are kind of all the same mold, right? So I hear what you're saying when you're saying, well, there's a lot of dudes in front of him that have the same exact style, but I do think Grant Dawson, his striking was pretty phenomenal when he kind of put it on display. I had already said it going into the fight. I thought that he was going to be the better striker between him and Jared Gordon, but it was interesting that Jared Gordon's plan was, let me keep the fight on the feet and try to outbox Dawson, while Dawson is trying to keep shooting for doubles, shooting for singles. But he was hitting some spinning shit, you know what I mean? He was throwing beautiful kicks. It was a well-rounded performance by Grant Dawson, and like I said, this was the performance that put him on the map, I think, because if you know anything about fighting, Jared Gordon is not a man to be toyed with, not a man to be played with, and Grant Dawson did nothing but put respect on Gordon's name. So big win by Grant Dawson. He is now 6-0-1 in the UFC. He's still undefeated, man, so shout out to him. Undefeated in the UFC, I should say. All right, AJ. This is like his oldest time right here. Darren Elkins picks up a unanimous decision victory, brother. Like this is like something that it's timeless, like Andrei Arlovski, brother. Like Darren Elkins, when he's on, and there's no stopping him. And this is one of the things that I thought was very impressive about this contest, is that Tristan Connelly was a walk forward, in your face, jiu-jitsu black belt who wanted to punch you in your face or take you down and choke you out. But Darren Elkins said, none of that. Brother, come on. Yeah, I came off of a 4-fight win streak. I'm 3-1 since then. 2 finishes in those 3 wins. Listen, Darren Elkins he put the damage on Tristan Connelly. He made him feel the damage, and he almost choked him out in round 3. So that was very impressive because, like I said, Connelly is a black belt. Now, here's the question, AJ. When it comes down to Darren Elkins, he is in that same mold of the Andrei Arlovski, of the Jim Miller, of the Cowboy Cerrone, where I think the man can fight forever and still be able to put up this performance. He reminds me of Clay Guida, to be honest with you, like a featherweight version of Clay Guida, because he's hyped up as always. You see him after the fight, he's just like chilling. He's like, woo, you're like, yeah, I won. I'm Darren Elkins. You know what I mean? And that's like, it was no sweat. Like, this is just what he does. This is like in his DNA, in my opinion. So when it comes down to the future of Darren Elkins, because this seemed like an easy test for him, where are we at with Darren Elkins here, brother? Like, when you watch him fight, are you like, damn, this dude's too good to just be fighting these not journeymen, but these prospects, these lesser fighters? Should he be fighting more of the upper echelons, or should he be stuck in this kind of gatekeeper position?
I like where Elkins is at. You know what I'm saying? Like, he fights it's very much, he's the same as we were saying before with Grant Dawson, where he's like, this is how I fight. I'm gonna fight every single fight this way. I'm not changing it up. Darren Elkins the same way, man. If he's on, he's on. It doesn't matter what's being thrown at him. He's still gonna be the damage, still putting it on you, still going forward, still doing all the stuff. But how far can he go? That's a rough one, man, because he's 37 looking to fight till 40. Can he fight these 3 years? Probably, but the same kind of style, it makes it harder when the upper echelon of the division, really, they got power, man. They got power, and they can go, and they have the gas tanks to get it going. I like him in the gatekeeper position because he's still a massive test for all of these newcomers coming in, the Tristan Connellys of the world, all these people that are still trying to make a big name, but you got to get past those big tests. And I think Elkins, he's more of he's positioned himself more as the test than the test taker, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like he's more already solidifies himself in the division as that gatekeeper. You got to get past him to get to the top. But he's not really making moves, or he's not taking his own career into his own hands saying, yo, I'm tired of this. I want to be the one moving up. I want to test myself against this guy. That makes sense. Which one do you like him more at?
Well, I think the gatekeeper is the correct spot to be at because he is the definition of a company man. He is a cowboy Cerrone in that sense, man, where he's like, yeah, you give me a fight and I'll fight him. How about that? You know what I mean? So whoever the test is, I will take him down and I will smash his face, and we will leave it like that. Darren Elkins to win on points was plus 150, so I hope you cashed in because we called that one as well. I remember, AJ, you said that specifically. I said I like Elkins on points, and you're like, yeah, I think that's probably the best move. Here we are. Darren Elkins wins on points. Like I said, a tale as old as time itself right there, brother. Shout out to the damage, man. I mean, it's almost like when you see something like this, unless you're getting spinning wheel kicked by Cub Swanson and just kind of some fluky things, you're not putting out the damage like that. He takes phenomenal damage right there. So shout out to him. All right, AJ, another tale as old as time. Krzysztof Jotko, decision to Gerald Meerschaert III. We said there was two ways this fight goes. Jotko via decision, Meerschaert via submission. And Jotko, he's just too technical, brother. He's too technical. Takedown defense is too good. I'm not going to say that Gerald Meerschaert didn't have a chance in this fight, but I will say that Jotko just kind of made it one of those fights where it's not the most exciting to watch, not the most entertaining, but he's just doing his thing, being technical, winning fights. This is now his 17th career decision win. What do you have to say about this, man? Jotko is just the decision machine, not the most exciting to watch, but he knows how to win fights, brother. He hit on that plus 150 points that we called too. So what do you make of this whole entire scenario?
The decision machine, man. And what I liked about Jotko is he was looking more patient. That was what worried me about this fight, is if he gets a little impatient, a little bit nervous, and kind of too far in, that's when Meerschaert can come in with those submissions we see. That's when he can get to your hips and then take you down, do what GM3 does best, man. But Jotko looked patient, it's still a very close fight. GM3 looked well, it looked good as well. Very much a grinder of a match, but Jotko, just how patient this dude is, his mind game, his fight style, it works really, really well for him, man. And he has a long frame. I mean, GM3 is also a kind of a big guy as well, but they just looked, long. Like Jotko looked like he had the length on him. He looked like he was flowing, man. Like you said, Derek Taylor is old as time. I think this is going to be the style we see Jotko moving forward with in every single one of his fights. That patient, that striker that stays away from the side or stays at distance, managing himself. I think that's the best look for Jotko going forward. And it's sure might not be the most exciting fight, but for somebody who likes watching technical fights and somebody who has an art form to them, Jotko's going into that very, very well. What do you think?
No, I agree with you, man. This is just classic Jotko. There's when I was trying to think about what new spin can I put on this, I was like, there's no new spin. This is just what he does. It's rinse, wash, repeat with him. However, I did want to ask you, what does it mean to you that he took down GM 3-4 times? What does that mean to you? Because Jotko, I said he's the dude who wants to stay on the feet. He wants to avoid the ground, but he was able to take down GM3, 100% takedown accuracy, 5 minutes of control, lots of pitter-patter shots, overall 129 shots, but only 65 of them were counted as significant, which, I mean, I still don't really know who is in charge of determining whether a strike is significant or not, but either way, it looks like he won the fight through and through, man. There was no aspect of this fight he did not win. So how surprising was that to you?
Actually pretty surprising. I mean, and I think it also, there's two things of why I think that it worked the way out for Jotko with the takedowns. One, GM3 was also surprised. He wasn't expecting. Everybody was thinking Jotko was going to keep it on the feet, even GM3. Next thing you know, somebody's on his hips. He's like, oh shit. Oh, this guy went to go. Second reason, I think Jotko wanted to prove a point as well. He was saying, yeah, I'm patient. I'm striking, all this stuff. Check it out. I got this too. And then he get right back up. Like, all right, let's strike it out. I don't want to stay down there with you, but I do want to get the takedowns and let you know I'm here for real. So yeah. I think it's those two.
Yeah, brother. I mean, I wish I had a new spin to put on this, but Jotko does what Jotko does, brother. Decision, win, victory for Krzysztof Jotko. At this point, man, there's really not a man you could put in front of him that he doesn't have a shot of winning against. You know what I mean? The last fight that he lost was against Sean Strickland, and that was just one where Strickland was the superior striker in that fight. It just was what it was. But at the end of the day, put Jotko in there, and he's going to show you some results. So Folks, I'm just gonna tell you this one more time. If you see Jotko up against another dude and the man is not a superior grappler, he's not a superior striker, Jotko on points is probably gonna cash in 8 out of 10 times. I'll just kind of put that one out there. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right. Either way, big win by Krzysztof Jotko. Now, AJ, let's talk about Daniel da Silva versus Francisco Figueiredo. Let's talk about a knee bar. Let's talk about a dude who looked like he was going to come to a hot start in Daniel da Silva, but Francisco Figueiredo showed off some of that submission chops. The man has 8 submissions, 9 submission wins in his career now. We didn't see much of a fight, but we did see a nasty knee bar. What'd you make of it?
We saw a nasty knee bar, man. These things are getting more and more popular. I think that's 2 in 2 weeks or 2 in 3 weeks, something like that, man. It's it never gets easier to watch, but it is always very entertaining. So you can't be too mad. But yeah, man, rough to see someone's knee get bent in the opposite direction.
You know, the irony of this situation is that at the gym, the jiu-jitsu gym that I train at, we were actually training heel hooks and knee bars the day prior, right? So I'm over here, I got knee bars in my head. I'm going about all the different, like you can go from the knee bar to the toe hold. You can go from the knee bar, switch it to the heel hook. And to see the picture perfect just nature of the scramble, the frame, the loading, and then switching to that knee bar and cranking it immediately, there's nothing you can do once it's in full hyperextension, right? There's nothing. It's just game over. You can just cry in agony and tap. And that's what Daniel da Silva had to do. However, this is one of those things where Daniel da Silva is so talented, brother. All he needs is just to put it together. He's so talented. I think he can make a real run in the UFC. So 0-2, not the way you want to start, but it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. I think there's big things on the horizon for Daniel da Silva, but this was Francisco Figueiredo's moment. The Figueiredo brothers, they're starting to look pretty nice over here, brother. And maybe not on the Pitbull brother level, but the Figueiredo brothers are going to make some noise, would you say?
They're going to make some noise, man, especially once we kind of see Francisco getting upper echelon, man. Yeah, these boys are going to be making some moves.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Gabe Green versus Yohan Lainez. And listen, Gabe Green, brother, this is actually coming off of a full training camp. He actually got some eye correction surgery, so his depth perception is there. And let's just say, man, he waited until the left hook Lainez got tired, and he put him out. And that was a TKO, punches, second round. It's a beautiful thing to do. To take a man's O is a very beautiful thing, I think, in mixed martial arts, because I mean it's gonna happen eventually. It's not like boxing, right? But you demoralize them on one point. They're left hand lane, so they're the KO master, right? And then you sleep them. This is just beauty all around. Big, well deserved win by Gabe Green, who I thought it was just kind of interesting. Gabe Green wearing green shorts, man. I thought it was a little too on the nose personally, but either way, what'd you make of it?
Yeah, I didn't even notice the shorts, man. Didn't even pay attention. Maybe it's a color thing. Yeah. But no, man, this is a big win for Gabe Green. He needed this. And I feel like he's another one of those very slept on fighters, you know, that people come in, they see like, yeah, I've heard the name Green. I don't know if it's Bobby, Gabe, whoever, but he's somebody, you know. Now I feel like he's really starting to make his name, man. He's kind of coming into that. You take somebody's that the UFC brass thought they were going to, send him in to throw you to the dogs. Now, you know, he's the dog. Proved it right, man. Gabe Green, very, very fun fight. I like it for him. I'm excited to see where he goes next.
Absolutely. And in a contest where we said that one of these fighters needs a big win, both of these fighters really needed a big win. Gina Mazzani versus Shanny Young. Shanny Young finally picks up that well-deserved finish in the UFC, that big must win actually happened for her. However, it wasn't without some adversity because Gina Mazzani was kind of putting it on her to start off. Shanny Young, she edged it out, got the elbows win, TKO. Took a little more damage than she probably wanted to, but either way, she got the job done. And now this is an interesting fight just because Gina Mazzani is a chiseled veteran, and I thought Mazzani was going to win the fight. She looked really sharp coming into it. It just, you know, things happen. You get clipped. It happens, right? So Shanny Young gets the win. Gina Mazzani is kind of in a worse position than she was before, but now Shanny Young has kind of salvaged her career in the UFC thus far. Did you think that this was a very important matchup, or this was just kind of like a filler type matchup?
I mean, in the casual's eyes, looks like a filler matchup. But in the actual hardcore, in the situations that's unfolding in the 125, this was a big win, man, and a much-needed win for Shanny. Honestly, it was a much-needed win for both of them. It's just Shanny Young who got it. Gina Mazzani also needed this one. Dropping to almost 500. She's 7-6 right now in the UFC. It's not looking great. And Shanny Young also, these are two fighters who had a lot of acclaim and prowess going into it, and then really lost a lot of steam in this last year. So I think this is one of those fights that like I said, in the casual's eyes, just an overlooker, but really important things were shaking and unfolding.
Yeah, man, and it was tough for the James Krause camp because those are back-to-back fighters who lost out of Glory MMA. So Gina Mazzani loses the opening bout, and then Natan Levy versus Mike Breeden. Breeden drops a back-and-forth war against Natan Levy. But in that fight with Natan Levy, brother, this was takedowns. This was who wanted it more. This was great striking. Levy versus Levy on a unanimous decision win was probably a good prop to go, but he got tested right here. So I don't really have too much to say on that, except it was a really, really fun fight and tough for the James Krause camp. Now, AJ, your sleeper, admittedly, it did get scrapped at the last second. Taira versus Candelero, right? Candelero fell out with an illness, so I think that bout is now getting moved to UFC 274 or UFC Vegas 54. I'm not sure, but either way, it will be coming up in the near future. And lastly, AJ, to kind of touch on our featured prelim, I think we should mix this one in with the rankings review. So, AJ, brother, would you like to join me on a trip down to the heavyweight division to talk about a man who is inevitably going to be a crusher, a man who I believe inevitably will hold the belt? A man named Alexandr Romanov, who put it on Chase Sherman as the biggest UFC betting favorite in company history, minus 2,300. And we said, just out of principle, you have to throw at least $10 on Chase Sherman. However, the game plan was incorrect on Chase Sherman's part, on the Vanilla Gorilla's part, where he engaged Romanov, and Romanov grabbed him and threw him over his shoulder like a rag doll. And that was the beginning of the end. He finished the fight with an Americana in the first round. This is what Alexandr Romanov does to everybody, and it's scary because it doesn't seem like you could stop him. It's scary because, AJ, the man has dropped 20 pounds since we last seen him fight, so he's agile, he's limber, and he's strong as shit. What do you make of this?
Man, agile, limber, and you can throw a dude who weighs basically the same amount as you over your shoulder like a baby. Yeah, bro, this style Romanov is dangerous. I agree with you. He is 100% gonna be a champ in the future. It's just a matter of timing. Now, does he have the striking right now to be able to compete with the Cyril Gons, the Stipes, those people? Not necessarily, but he's still very young in the UFC. We're going to see him up there for sure.
So I need to ask you a question off the bat, brother, because we need to enter our rankings right now, right? So right now I have Sergey Pavlovich at 15. So do you. The UFC has Blagoy Ivanov, who's fighting next week. Finally, we haven't seen him fight in a while. He's number 15 in the UFC's consensus rankings. But I want to talk about the promise of Alexandr Romanov. I think he needs to be fighting top 15 dudes at this point. I think there's no point in just keep feeding him these prospects because he's showing that he's game and he wants to scrap. So let's take a big leap. Let's jump straight to number 10. UFC doesn't have a number 10. They have tied for 9. Chris Daukaus, though. Chris Daukaus, I think, is 10 across the board for me and him. You have him at 9. Can Alexandr Romanov get past Chris Daukaus?
I think so, man. And you know how big of a fan I am of the Daukaus brothers, man. I think that right around there, that 8, that 9, it's Jairzinho Rosenstruck across the board for all of us. I think that's about right where he can start getting past people. That 8 spot, Volkov and above, that's going to be hard, or at least for me, number 7 and above, it's going to be hard. But I think he beats Daukaus, man. I think he beats Daukaus not handily, but he just has the size. Daukaus might have the hands, might have the speed, maybe, but Romanov, the size and the ground and pound. You don't want to be on the ground with this dude at all.
So one of the things the commentary team was saying at UFC Vegas 53, which by the way was the 100th UFC fight night in company history, kind of cool stat. One of the things they were saying is that Alexandr Romanov might legitimately be the best wrestler in the heavyweight division. So let's talk about the wrestlers of the heavyweight division, right? You have Stipe Miocic, you have Curtis Blades, and you have Sergey Pavlovich. Not really, but kind of. That's kind of it. You don't really have a lot of like legit wrestlers. So let's talk about Stipe and let's talk about Curtis Blades. If Alexandr Romanov in a fantasy matchup right now was matched up against either of those two fighters and he was able to get them to the ground, do you think they'd be able to get back up? Like, do you think, like, Curtis Blades is clearly the toughest test when it comes down to a wrestler, but to me, there's the advantage the man has in wrestling. His Greco-Roman background for Alexandr Romanov is so superior to all of these other fighters that he can just ragdoll you time and time again, and there's nothing you can do about it. The only man who's given him issues is Juan Espino, and that's kind of telling, right? It is pretty telling. So it's like, you're not going to fast track him up to fucking Stipe Miocic. Come on. But hear me out. What do you think?
Yeah, I know. No, I see what you're saying, especially because in every ground instance we've seen, Romanov, excuse me, I just blanked his name. We've seen Romanov. he's always been a step ahead. No matter what happens, he sees it, he rolls with it, he gets his hips in the right position, and is that literally that one step ahead of you. Maybe even 2 steps in his mind, but on the game, he's 1 step ahead. And now going against Curtis Blades, and then Stipe Miocic, I can see why people would want to think that he's the best wrestler in the division. He knows his stuff. He's down there. Now we got the American style versus the Greco-Roman. It's a harder instance. I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. I want to say Curtis Blades is better, but I can see why Alexandr Romanov is a little bit better as well.
I think Romanov has the size, you know what I mean, in terms of mass. Like, he's just a massive individual. So it's going to be interesting to see if someone is able to kind of like stuff those takedowns. I don't know how it's going to happen, but if they're able to stuff the takedowns, push them into the deeper rounds, I think that's where you could see the flaws really come out. But in the meantime, I think that you match him up against Augusto Sakai, Pavlovich, Dawkins, Tybura, Volkov, even Aspinall. It's sad as it is to say, because Aspinall is matched up with Curtis Blades next, and I don't like that matchup at all. But, given all of these matchups, I think Romanov can do some real damage if he's able to get his opposition to the ground. It's kind of, that's it. And he showed against Chase Sherman. Chase Sherman, there was nothing he could do. He tried to get back up to his feet, just get pulled right back down. Try to get back up, no, you're right back down. Americana, and probably if he wouldn't have got that, he probably would have moved to something else and would have just chained together submissions until he got one. So that is your 60 seconds rankings review, folks. I think that Alexandr Romanov will be entering the top 15s, top 10s of our respective rankings. It just depends on how willing we are at the time, I guess we should say. So, with that being said, AJ, now it's time to move on to the fighter of the night, brother.
Right now, there is not a man on this planet that can stop me inside this octagon.
The celebration is more work than the fight.
Fighter of the night.
Okay, brother. So this is the fighter of the night. This is the time where we have to make a pick. Who had the best intangibles? Who had the best storyline? Did everything come together in this fight for one particular fighter that you feel justified to say, this is my fighter of the night? Who do you got for UFC Vegas 53?
Man, my fighter of the night, as much as I want to go with Chito Vera, man, just because of the mindset he instills, that's just an easy layup for me. We all know Chito's the man, and especially the mindset. We're big mindset fans on this show, and I think Chito does a very good job of encompassing that. But my fight of the night, man, I'm going Grant Dawson. You have to, man. You got to put some respect on this dude's name. Like he said, he has the same kind of mindset going forward. Sure, it may not be that immigrant mentality that Chito has, but it is still an old school knuckle dragger mentality that we like to preach, man. That's a straight up Goggins quote right there, man. We love the knuckle draggers in there that are willing to put the effort, put the effort into the work and get the ground moving, man. Get grinding, get going. No excuses, just nose to the grindstone, get it working. And that's Grant Dawson, dude. This, like I was saying before, this dude's the most slept on 155er in the division, at least in my opinion. There's a couple there's a couple dark horses out there, but Grant Dawson is one of them that he's a problem, man. He's a real deal problem. And nonetheless, the fact that he knows he's a problem, because he can tell you his game plan, say, this is what I'm going to do each and every fight. Come stop me. You're not going to. You can try as hard as you want. I like it, man. I like that Grant Dawson is coming back. I like that we have a couple more grinders in the division, man. A lot of these people are very strikey heavy, which I like in general. But at the same point, we need to see the other side of it, man. We need to see a full, well-rounded game, and that's what Grant Dawson presents. One of the first times, probably the first time ever you'll hear me say that my fighter of the night was a grinder, a wrestler, heavy fighter, but still proves the point. This dude is the real deal, man. We got to start paying attention to him. And for all those reasons, that's why Grant Dawson is my fighter of the night. Tell me what you think, Derick, and who's yours?
Well, it's not a bad pick for fighter of the night, brother. Grant Dawson deserves it more than anybody, I do believe. And there was a lot of people I could have gone with in this one, man. But I actually wanted to just stick to my guns, stick to my essence, brother. I have to talk about the damage, Darren Elkins. He is my fighter of the night. Like I mentioned earlier, this man is 28-10 in his MMA career. He's 17-9 in the UFC, and he's 3-1 since scrapping that 4-fight losing skid that he suffered from 2018 to 2020. 2 of his last 3 wins are via finish, and that's the most important thing. This dude's he's closer to 40 than he is to 30, which is not necessarily where you want to be, especially in that division, that featherweight division, that very tough division. But Darren Elkins, it's like no matter who you put in front of him, I don't want to say can crusher or anything like that, but I want to say that you put somebody in front of him, and he's going to put him on their back, and he's going to put the damage on him time and time again. When you enter the fold of the Jim Millers, of the Donald Cerrones, of the Andrei Arlovskis, when you enter that type of status where it's like, it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter how many people have dismissed you because you don't have a chin, right? all of that goes out the window when you just put results on the board, and that's what Darren Elkins does. That's why I respect the man so much, because he's very blue collar. Like AJ said, we're a fan of mentality here, and I think Darren Elkins shares that blue collar immigrant mentality, even though he's American. You know, that worker mentality, that worker bee who says, I'm going to go and earn mine. Nothing is given, everything is earned, and that is the definition of all of the fighters that we're praising here on this program here today. So for Darren Elkins to be the damage, to not take that much damage and to actually put the damage on his opponents, I love the nickname as well, because it could be apt for either setting. Whether you're willing to give it or you're willing to take it, it does not matter, because you're not going to be able to easily kill that man in that cage in any regard. Whether it's his mentality, whether it's will, it's his heart, it does not matter. The man is a wrestler through and through, fit from that Clay Guida mold. And with that being said, the damage is my fighter of the night. I don't think that there's ever been a time, AJ, where we actually picked two legitimate grinders as the fighter of the night. Two of the most, I would say, least exciting in the methodologies, and where they're not flashy strikers, they're not big knockout guys. They're put you on your butt and sit you there and take control and smash your face in. So this is a grinder program today. We're all about mentality. Shout out to Chito Vera, because he set the rhythm for all of this to go into motion. So those are your fighters of the night, folks. If you like this segment, drop a like, subscribe, share the show with your friends, all the fun stuff. You already know what time it is. And with that being said, let's move on to the word on the street, brother. Okay, so my man, we got a couple of things that I wanted to talk about, but the first thing that I wanted to talk about is actually some bad news. Not necessarily the worst news in the world, but it's not the greatest thing in the world. Okay. Zabit Magomedsharipov has revealed that he will be pursuing a career in medicine per a recent post he made on his Instagram account. The news has cast further doubt on whether the athlete would ever make a return to the UFC octagon. Now, this was tweeted by @VM_TV_ Violent Money TV. And then you could see below a picture of Zabit just chilling at the Doctors of the World, the long scruffy hair with the big beard. Listen, man, this is a dude who might be the biggest what if in UFC history. I'm not going to say MMA history, but I'll definitely say UFC history, because if he does not come back, it's like this was one of the most talented fighters who we thought was going to be fast-tracked for a title, who just immediately dropped off the face of the surface of the earth. What do you make of the story?
Man, it's wild. Literally dropped off the face of the earth. Shocked. Not bad news. Not good news. Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm excited, man. Anytime we can see other stuff kind of happening, I like it.
It's a feel-good story, because he's probably, if he becomes some type of whatever career in the medical field, you're probably going to make a lot more money than you would have in the UFC in terms of longevity, with a lot less CTE. But it's just robbed of the one of the most entertaining, talented fighters that we've seen in a long time, whether it came down to the grappling, whether it came down to the spinning kicks, the spinning attacks, all the fun striking. Shout out to Zabit. We hope we wish you well in your future endeavors. I guess I should say that. Now, AJ, we have another interesting turn right here, and I will pull it back on over. Joanna Jędrzejczyk, she inks a new multi-fight deal with the UFC ahead of her return against Zhang Weili. And this is going to be interesting, because there was a point in her career where we say, like, is she done? Is she retired? She's chilling in Florida doing her thing. She's like working on other endeavors in Poland, movies, all that fun stuff. Is she ever going to come back to fighting? So Jędrzejczyk said it's a multiple fight deal. She said, I always said I want to retire in the UFC, and of course people would love to see me do this or that after, but I feel like if I retired from MMA, I would retire from the UFC, the best MMA league in the world. So that's one thing that we appreciate, that she wants to stick with the UFC through and through. She's making money, she's happy, all that fun stuff, but we get to see JJ back into the cage, man. This is the big key. We kept JJ in our rankings because we knew she's the queen of the strawweight division. Let's not forget. Oh yeah, Rose Namajunas, you hold the belt, but the GOAT of the strawweight division, the person who put that division on the map, her name is Joanna Jędrzejczyk. I don't care what you say. So now that she's making a comeback, what are the odds, brother? We're seeing Joanna Jędrzejczyk with gold around her waist again.
Odds? Pretty good, so, man. Joanna, I know. Uncle Chael calls her Joanna Warrior now because she's not the champion anymore. But we can see Joanna champion again, very, very fast. Maybe not very fast, but she gets one on Wei Li. We're going to see her for that strap, and especially with the multi-fight deal, now she has a little bit of confidence, a little bit of leeway to not have to worry about, my contract's up, I got to win this fight. Now it's like, okay, I got to get back to the gold. Now I think we're going to see a more focused JJ coming in. It makes for a lot of fun, man. I'm excited.
Absolutely. I'm really, really excited about that. She's one of my favorite fighters to watch. And with that being said, let's stay on the lookout for Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Okay, AJ, so the last little piece of news that I have for you. So there's one that I wanted to mention quickly. So it appears to be that Bellator and Eagle FC have made an agreement that they're going to start doing some cross-promotional fighters, right? So a fighter from Bellator will then be contracted, will be allowed through their contract to fight in Eagle FC and vice versa. And I think it's kind of cool. So I hope that we can get more of that in the future. Do you have any words on that? Because this is just a quick little snippet.
I like it, man. I like the cross promotion. It's going to be setting up a lot of things. I'm curious how the pay structure works for these fighters, and like bonuses and all that. I'm sure that's like the one of the most confusing parts is how we're legally going to get through this. But I think it opens a lot more doors, man. And if Eagle FC and Bellator can kind of get it done, what's to say the UFC doesn't want to throw its hand in the mix, man? I'm excited. I hope it does come true.
I sure hope so. But then the last piece that I got for you right here. Jorge Masvidal issued a stay-away order from Colby Covington, enters official not guilty plea. Brother, so this is just the only thing that I wanted to take away from this is that I want this to be a further lesson, further proof that running your mouth will find you in big trouble, man. When you issue a stay-away order from somebody, when you claim that somebody has caused you brain damage because they put their money where their mouth was, man. They said you were talking a gang of shit, and now you're going to suffer the consequences of it. I don't care if you have to do time. I don't care if whatever the case may be. Some people just don't play that game, the facade of the entertainment industry. So, worth it or not? Now that Colby Covington, you lose to Usman, you're officially the second best fighter in the welterweight division in the UFC currently. But was it worth it to hold up this gimmick and this facade for all of this to happen, to get sucker punched, to have Masvidal really on some true disdain because you talked about his family, his kids, his ex-wife, all that fun stuff? What do you think?
I don't think it was worth it for Covington at all, man. This stay away order just made him look so much worse, so soft that he had to go and he had to, oh, mom, dad, this guy's, bullying me. Hey, stay away from my kid. That's really what it was, is he went and got, daddy law justice to come in. And it seems like that's Covington's whole life, man. So it really makes him look like very, very soft, man. Very not worth it at all. And probably adds more fans to the Jorge Masvidal scene.
Yeah, man, and that's the tough part is because if you really think about it, it would be different if Masvidal was just like trying to rain down terror and was like, I'm going to do all this terrible things to you just because. But it's like, well, I'm doing this to you because you talked about my family and my kids and my religion, and you talked about like my ethnicity and all that. Like, you literally crossed every line you can cross, and now I'm putting it on you, and now you want to go and get the law involved. Interesting. So I just want to prove that this is further proof right here that putting your money where your mouth is a harder thing to do than most people probably think, and that you should probably not say crazy things on the internet if you're not willing to suffer the consequences in real life. I'll just kind of leave that there, folks. I think that's a good golden rule for life. You know what I mean? Don't talk shit if you don't expect to get hit. Don't run up or shut up. You know what I'm saying? That's basically what it comes down to. All right, folks. And with that being said, next week we have a banger of a card in the UFC. We have two title fights, Charles Oliveira versus Justin Gaethje, the ultimate fight in the lightweight division right now to determine who will be the king, either new or still. We will see what happens. We also have a rematch, I don't know how many years in the making, Rose Namajunas versus Carla Esparza number 2, man. Let's not forget Carla Esparza is the inaugural. There we go. Oh man, AJ, you saved me right there. I don't know what the hell that was. Inaugural UFC strawweight champion Carla Esparza, the Cookie Monster. Let's not forget she won it on the Ultimate Fighter against Rose Namajunas. Now all these years later, Rose is the champ and Esparza is trying to take it from her. Should be fun. AJ, a couple other fights to note. I have this. Apologies, I'm going to turn because I have this written over here on the side. We have this weekend Canelo Alvarez versus Dimitri Bivol. That's going to be a fun fight in the light heavyweight division. That's going to be interesting. We have Bellator 280. We have Ryan Bader versus Chet Congo number 2 for the light heavyweight championship. Or actually, this is for the heavyweight championship, excuse me. Yoel Romero versus Alex Polizzi. We have Lorenzo Larkin versus Kyle Stewart. And we have Dan Argueta versus Diego Silva in LFA. Man, this is going to be a fun fight-filled weekend, brother. We got LFA. We got Kayla Harrison. Actually, I didn't even mention that. Kayla Harrison versus Marina Nikotka or something like that. Listen, Kayla Harrison is fighting. You need to go watch. Ray Cooper is fighting. Rory McDonald is fighting. Brother, we got, like I said, tune into some fights this weekend, folks. It's going to be fun. AJ, you hyped up or what?
Hyped up, man. Yeah, there's some big moves being made, man. I'm excited for the Kayla Harrison fight, obviously. Yeah. Chet Congo, seeing him back against Bader. It's old school fight style, man. I like it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, folks, stay tuned. Once again, get ready for next week's preview show because guess what? We're going to have the money lines. We're going to be talking wagers. We're going to be talking prop bets. And we already hit on a couple this weekend. If you didn't cash in, you're snoozing. And if you snoozing, that means you're losing. So if you want to win, come join us on the Bloody Water Podcast. Drop a like, subscribe, and let us know who you're rocking with in the comments. We always appreciate it. AJ, you got any last words for the people?
Well, folks, like Bobby Green always says, man, you keep sleeping on us, we're going to wake you up. Who else is giving you those prop bets? Who else is giving you those plus 1,000 picks, man? Ain't nobody else got the cojones to make a bet like that except for right here in the best MMA breakdown, betting odds, whatever show you want to call this. Best show in the entire world right here. Make sure you share with your friends. Help us out. We appreciate all the love. Like Derick said, a little bit past 370, man. We climbing. We're going to be hitting that 500 by the end of the year. And I'm excited and always humble that we always got people there helping us out. We appreciate it a lot.
Absolutely, brother. I couldn't have said it better myself. Drop a like, subscribe. Let's get to 500. It's going to be easy, folks. We know when we got y'all backing us, the realest fight fans in the world backing us, you already know what time it is. Best MMA show on the planet. You dig. All right, folks, that's it for us. And until next time, peace.